Okay, a quick personal story. When I was 16 years old, I took my girlfriend to the movies. We went to see a movie called The Departed. Fantastic movie. Had Jack Nicholson, Matt Damon, Leonardo DiCaprio. They gave fantastic performances. The plot was good. The writing was good. It was directed by Martin Scorsese. So I had a fantastic time. After we finished the movie and we got outside of the theater, I asked my girlfriend and she liked it. And she was like, yeah, not really. At the time, I thought that that was really weird that she didn't appreciate it in the same way that I did. And then, like a month later, we went to see this other movie. It was called Shooter, and it was so boring, just completely paint by the numbers action movie, no plot, no characters. And when I asked her if she liked that, she said, yeah, that movie was fantastic, a lot better than The Departed. Hearing that she preferred that movie made me lose a lot of attraction to her. Her inability to distinguish between the quality of these two different movies showed me that she wasn't a cultured woman. That's what this video is going to be about. It's about how to spot a woman of culture and why that's important. Now, what it means to be cultured can be a little bit difficult to define because it's somewhat subjective, but you've got your obvious factors like somebody who is well-informed, well-educated, someone who appreciates the arts, somebody who understands other cultures. But for me, I would say the most important characteristic that distinguishes somebody as cultured is whether or not they have a refined taste. So for the example of the movies, a woman of culture is able to distinguish between a movie with genuine depth and just a simple popcorn flick. But you can really draw examples from any area of life. Like food, for example, a woman of culture is going to be able to tell the difference in quality of a pizza that's being cooked in a 5-star restaurant by a fancy chef in a wood fire oven and, Domino's or Pizza Hut or something. You can also see this with regards to sense of humor, whether or not what she finds amusing is sophisticated or not. Like, does she like witty, insightful commentary, or does she just go straight to fart jokes? Is her clothing classy? Like, does she have a good sense of style? Is she able to match the correct colors to her skin tone? Can she coordinate outfits? Or does she just go straight for, the low-cut top and the miniskirt? Music is another really good example because a woman who's basic is just going to like pop music, really shallow lyrics, predictable beat. But a woman of culture is going to be able to appreciate a whole lot more. She's going to be able to appreciate the authenticity of the lyrics, the rhythm, the timing, how it builds, the subtle instrumentals in the background. It's in her ability to appreciate increasing levels of subtlety that distinguishes a woman of culture from a woman who's basic. Now, I'm going to give a quick shout out to a personal hero of mine, Maria Montessori, who created Montessori education. In a Montessori classroom for 3 to 6 year olds, they actually have specially designed materials for the children to use that helps them notice subtle differences. For example, the kids might play with 10 red blocks that are identical in shape and size, but they have very subtle differences in color. And so the teacher will jumble them all up, and then it is the student's job to order those blocks from darkest to lightest, and it's training them to notice those subtle variations. This is really, really important for a young child, and they have equivalent materials for everything, for things like height, length, weight, even texture. It's all about training the senses to appreciate these subtle differences. That kind of education goes a long way to training somebody's creativity. So just if you have children, I highly recommend check out Montessori education. It's wonderful. Now, with all this in mind, you can see why something like wine tasting has always been heralded as a mark of culture. It's like when you're tasting wine, you are actually testing your ability to notice and appreciate subtle flavor changes. A woman who is basic cannot tell the difference between a $10 bottle of wine and a $100 bottle of wine. To her, it just tastes like the same. It's just alcoholic fruit juice because she has an unrefined palate. So why am I talking about this? Am I just encouraging you to be a snob and look down on women who aren't wealthy enough to go to wine tastings? No, not at all. That's not the point. It's just that it's important to understand what it means to be cultured and to know to what degree the woman that you're interested in dating in has refined her tastes to the degree that she is cultured, because an uncultured woman, a woman who's basic, brings with her a lot of problems. Before I go through them, I just want to make it absolutely clear that a woman who is uncultured and doesn't have very refined taste is not necessarily low quality. She can still be an absolutely sweet, kind, very genuine person. The book War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy does a fantastic job of expounding the virtues of simplicity and sort of elevating the common man and the kind of virtue that he brings above the sort of decadence and moral decay of the aristocracy. So let me make that abundantly clear. I'm not saying that a woman who lacks refinement and doesn't have very well developed taste, a woman who's uncultured, is necessarily low quality. Not at all. And likewise, just because a woman is cultured does not mean that she's high quality. There are plenty of women who are great at drinking wine, but they're awful human beings. So it's just important to not glorify culture or simplicity. Neither is really that important. What's actually essential in a relationship is moral decency, like what kind of TV shows she watches is not nearly as important as how she treats you. But there are a few problems that you might want to look out for if you're dating a woman who isn't cultured, and we'll go through them now. So one of the first issues is weight gain, because a woman who has an unrefined food palate and not a very well developed sense of taste is likely to go for those most basic, pleasure foods that are high in sugar, high in fat. There's also the danger when dating a woman who's a bit more basic that she's going to embarrass you in public because she's not aware of how she comes across. She's not able to intelligently contribute to conversations. It can also be a problem in private arguments that you might have, because if there's no nuance to her judgment, then she might not be able to tell the difference between constructive feedback and outright abusive criticism, and that lack of understanding could cause lots of disagreements. It can be a problem with regards to future parenting, because if you have high aspirations for your children, you want them to be smart, well-rounded, well-educated individuals. Well, the biggest teacher in a child's life is going to be their mother. And so if you choose a woman who's basic, it's unlikely that she's going to raise your children to be very cultured. And of course, there's also the practical difficulties that come with having different tastes in your entertainment, different TV shows she likes, movies, music that she listens to. Now, none of this is insurmountable. These are all issues that can be worked upon. It's just important to be aware that there could be some problems that arise. As a general recommendation, I would say that it is safest to try and find a woman who is at a similar level of culture to you, or perhaps even just slightly a little bit less, because then you might be able to appeal better to her hypergamy. Because if you're the more cultured one, then you can help her experience new things, and you could introduce her to new experiences, and she's going to like that. She wants to be able to look up to you, and that's going to play well for her attraction. I always think that it's sweet when a couple is cultured in very different ways. Like if the woman has extensive knowledge about dance and music and lots of artistic things, and perhaps the husband, he doesn't know so much about that, but he knows heaps about geography and history, and they kind of have this beautiful cross-pollination. There's absolutely nothing wrong with having differences in a couple. That's a good thing, because when things are functioning properly between two high-quality individuals, these differences are not the source of conflict. They're not in competition with each other. They're in cooperation, and these differences are complementary. Perhaps it's not something that you've ever thought about before, the degree to which a woman is, basic or cultured, but I bet now that you've watched this video, you're going to start to notice it all the time. Masturbation. What happens after becoming a high-quality man? And what is the best path for men to choose with regards to happiness? One long-term relationship or lots of variety? All of these topics and many more are covered in exclusive videos available on my Patreon page. This includes my latest video, What is it like to date an ambitious woman? In this video, I talk about what it means to be ambitious in a feminine sense and how it differs from male ambition. I also talk about the right characteristics to look for in a romantic partner, as opposed to someone who's just going to be a good friend or potential business partner. And I give a detailed explanation as to the correct way that a woman inspires a man in his relationship. There is a big difference between whether or not a woman is inspiring you with her masculinity or with her femininity. If you're in a relationship with an ambitious woman, or you're attracted to those kinds of women, or you wonder if you should be attracted to them, this is the video for you. For every video that I post here on YouTube, I post an additional bonus video on my Patreon page. That means that at the moment, you're only seeing half of the total content that I create. If you would like access to the other half, then please go and sign up at my Patreon. It's just a $5 a month subscription, and you get instant access to a whole bunch of exclusive content. It's a wonderful way to support the channel, and I would love to see you over there.